Welcome back to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is your host, Russell Bruce. Today, I have an extra special episode. I have two of my longtime friends, Scott and Angel, better known as Skizzy and Jimmy. What's up, fellas?
What's up, Russ?
All right.
Yeah, so I've been knowing these guys for a very long time. Scott and I went to college together. We were roommates back in '86. I met Angel, Jimmy. I keep calling you Angel, even though it says Jimmy up there.
Okay.
I gotta
You
call him
me
Angel.
Angel. You know how we do it.
Gotta call him Angel. And I met Angel about 27 years ago. And whenever I travel out to the West Coast, the left coast, I always link up with these guys, break bread. We always have great conversations. We love on each other as brothers. And hopefully today we could show you guys like what the glue that pulls us together. Even though we come from different backgrounds, that's totally is a non-factor, right? We're connected spiritually. And once again, these guys are my brothers. So I'm not going to get long-winded because we got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about here today. So I'll let these guys introduce themselves. Scott, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them how we know each other and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Scott. I live in California, and Russell and I met, as he said, in 1986. We were both freshmen. I played baseball and he played basketball, and the coaches thought it'd be a good idea to throw us together. And we've been best friends ever since. And Russell will come over to my house and I go down to his house, and we used to hang out all the time and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Right. And I got stories for when, remember I'd come down and do breakdancing and all that stuff.
Back in the 80s cool. When it was hot.
Yep. And then Angel, he and I met 35 years ago or something like that. I'm not gonna say exactly how we met, by who or whatever, but yeah, that's a punch. Yeah, and the three of us have been best friends ever since, man. You're literally my brothers, man. And one thing I really want to talk about is how the media and everywhere you look, all the people in control, they're always trying to tell us that we're separate, we're different, and they do that on purpose to separate us so they can do all the dirty stuff they're doing. And reality is most of us, and I can speak for the three of us for sure, but most of us have more in common than we don't have in common. We laugh the same, we cry the same, we want the same things, we want happiness, we want to do well in life, we want to have a family and raise our kids and love and all that. But the media and everybody else trying to tell you something different is not right. Anyways, you go ahead.
That's what's up. Angel.
Yeah, so Angel, aka Jimmy, aka Yakub, aka Burke. I'm just saying I've known let's see, I would say probably Bruce, we go back to about 98, 99, somewhere around there, 1999, somewhere in that area. And we just hit it off from the very beginning, and we knew each other through Scott, Skizzy. And Skizzy, like you said, we go back some 30-something years. And we just, as you can see, we all got different skin tones. And as my boy be saying, we got different paint jobs. But
exactly.
I got that from Russ. And,
different paint jobs for real.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, man, it's literally never mattered.
Exactly.
Yeah. Since the very beginning, it was never even discussed.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
We just loved each other, and that's it.
I think that's the way the world's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
It is the way the world's supposed to be. And I really feel sorry, especially for everybody, man, because it goes on for everybody, really, certain segments of whoever. Man, they're missing out on the richness of life. Diversity is the richness of life, man.
Yeah.
Period. And whether it's your friends, whether it's your experiences, whether it's your other cultures, even outside this country, which you guys know I traveled all over the world back in the day. and food. You know, people that are so. I was just talking to my kids the other day about that. I feel sorry for people that are just want to eat peanut butter and jelly and, you know, and cereal, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's so sad because they're missing out on so much incredible food. You know?
Yeah.
And Russell, back in the day, down on Grant Street, you know where I was at, right?
Yeah.
Mama D used to make Thanksgiving dinner, greatest Thanksgiving dinners on earth, man. I mean, she made everything from scratch. Cornbread, greens, the turkey, the stuffing, everything, man. And I remember I ate so much I wanted to throw up because I'd eat like three giant plates of it, and I just couldn't get enough of it. You know,
that's what happens when you invite the white guy. You invite the white guy to the cookout.
That's right. And you know, Mama D was just loving every second of it. She's like, "Oh, look at him eat."
That's what's up. That's what's up there. So you said something, and while you're there, because I know most people hear buzzwords, because we live in a country that, you know, the media like controls people like puppets on a string. So when you said diversity, he's talking about like just experiencing diverse cultures and like different foods. Like I like to cook. So one day, you know, I'm cooking soul food, you know, the traditional soul food he just mentioned. Then another time, you know, I love eating Japanese hibachi food. I love Italian food. You know, I love Polish food. I love Syrian. You know what I'm saying? Chinese. It's like I like to try it all, right? And I traveled a lot. And when I travel, I always like to try new dishes outside of crazy stuff. But we're not talking about DEI, so get your panties out of wad. That's not what we're doing. So that's what he's talking about, just being diverse. So with that said, guys, there's a lot going on in the world, and you know, where do we start, man? It's like, gosh, it's like we got this big elephant in the room, and
let's start with Palestine.
Okay,
all right, I'll let you guys handle that. I don't dive too deep in that in things that I've talked about recently. I'll let you open up. I'll chime in where needed.
Angel, go ahead and give your first thoughts.
What do you feel about what's going on in Palestine?
Well, so, man, you said it right, Russ. Where do we start? Because it's a deep subject. You know, we got people on two different aisles, and you know, you got the Republicans that are wanting to have it a certain way with a certain country, and then you also have the Democrats that want it a certain way with the other country, and this is kind of causing issues in everyday life, and it's caused what I've noticed is you have to be blind not to see this genocide that's going on right now. I mean, I'm just gonna put it blatant. It's a genocide. Yeah, I mean, when people have, you know, they have, I mean, it's like somebody having a M16 to somebody having a 22, and you got a whole bunch of people with M16s, and you got a few people with 22s,
slingshots.
And that too. But I'm just saying, it's like, you know, what do you do with people that had nothing to do with anything? They weren't part of Hamas. They weren't part of PLO. They weren't part of any of those things. They were just living their life over there in that little open prison yard, if you would. I mean, because that's what Gaza was. It was just a big old prison. You know, it's a huge open prison. And but yeah, to see people starving to death and just, they were just indiscriminately, man, just dropping bombs and missiles all over the place, bro. That place is just
83% of the people who have been killed in Palestine are civilians.
Isn't that crazy?
And over half of those are children. And some estimates are over 500,000 people have been killed. And supposedly there was a ceasefire, right?
Right.
Trump was on air talking about how he did this ceasefire. Do you know that Israel's been bombing Gaza ever since?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I don't know what day it was, but they bombed a hospital or something, and like 104 people got killed. You know, in all these videos, people carrying little babies with their arm blown off and stuff.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut your wisdom off.
No, that's all right.
Well, okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to the beginning, right? Because like as of late, I don't watch television, so I don't watch all this every day. You know, I have an idea what's going on because I see people talking about it on social media. But
that's the only place I look to.
it's always been kind of interesting to me, just going back into the 1940s when they established Israel in Palestine.
Do we want to talk about how that all happened?
Yeah, we could do it.
The Balfour Doctrine,
the Balfour Declaration. So see, I spent years doing all that and read the books. I think I shared the 13th Tribe book with you guys as well. I think Angel, you read it as well. I read that book by Arthur Kessler about 30 something years ago. It's called the 13th Tribe. Anybody want to get it? It's very interesting how religion has been used in conquest.
Yes.
And
always
big time.
You know, and the thing is, it's like people really don't understand how deep this thing is, because it's like you hear Jew, you hear Zionism, you hear these different things, and I don't think people understand the difference between the two. So
you know what, somebody I was friends with this Muslim guy, right? And we were talking about that, and one of the other people that we were talking to, she was like, well, what's the difference between Zionists and Jews? And he said, it's the difference between ISIS and Muslims. And I thought that was a really good comparison.
True.
You know, extremists with extremist agenda versus regular people that just want to live their life. But it'd be very interesting to talk about the Balfour Declaration and how all that came to be, and then what happened in 1948 and what's happened for the last 78 years since. And then you got folks here in the US saying, well, they have a right to defend themselves. You know, October 7th, they came and they killed thousands of Israelis. But there's a whole lot of information about that too. You know, normally a Palestinian can't even get close to the fence, right? How did they all get over there, man? That early in the morning? I don't know. It just seems very odd to me that even happened. Like,
well, you know, one of the things that I think we talked about this before. A lot of the IDF soldiers were told to stand down that day. And I mean, I've seen, in the morning. Yeah, I mean, bro, I've seen footage of them talking about it where there's like, yeah, we were told to stand down. They're recording it the whole time, just watching the Palestinians coming over the fence and coming through it and everything, flying over it with their paragliders or whatever you call those. Was that what it was?
Yeah,
paragliders. And so yeah, I mean, it was like their September 11th event. It was an inside job, bro. And people can stick their head in the sand if they want to, but this stuff is, there's some very evil, wicked people, bro, that's trying to run this world, and it's they're all playing and we're not in it, as what's his name would say it. What's the guy's name? George Carlin.
Oh, you're talking about yeah. I know you're talking about the comedian.
Yeah.
He was wise beyond his years, man. The things he said 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, he was
about
like,
every subject.
If you can't pick up the phone and call the bank, get your interest rate lowered or wiped out, you're not in the club. And that's a good way to look at it. Let's talk a little bit more on this, right? So, Scott, you mentioned the Balfour Declaration. What was the goal of the Balfour Declaration? And then let's also look at the fact that when the Jews were being persecuted in Germany, right, when they were looking for a homeland, that they were trying different places. They looked in South America. They were looking at Uganda, and Idi Amin told them to, get up out of here. It's not happening here. Mm-hmm. They were looking different places. This is where they ended up. Mm-hmm. So, and
about Germany.
Well, I'm just talking about the machine that was behind them moving into Israel. So that's where people talk about the Zionists who were behind this. And this is a group that's probably Satanist. They're not spiritual. They're not any of that. So, but the thing is, people hide within the religion, right? It's a way for them to hide within the religion, because you have Jewish people who really want to follow, the Torah, they want to follow, the laws, right? But then you have other people who know that like everything's been infiltrated. Like uh, the positive Masonic lodges back in the day, they got infiltrated. You look at Christianity, they got infiltrated by imperialism.
Hey,
Same,
look what's going on just right now in this
yeah,
country,
yeah,
where the Republicans are hiding behind Christianity in the flag for politics, man, to do bad. Like it
right.
makes no sense. It boggles my mind that and the supporters too, man, that they don't see that they're calling themselves Christians, but they're literally doing everything against what Jesus taught. And
Man,
it makes zero sense to me. But they go around talking about we're Christian, but they're just using Christianity for the American flag in a bad way, you know?
dude, I actually one day, because what you're saying, I see it, right? And I hear the rhetoric, I hear all the dogma that's being pushed, and it's no different than Birth of a Nation, right? It's a whole bunch of propaganda to get ignorant minded people riled up.
It's all propaganda, dude.
Yeah, because I think some of these people really want a race war, right? And when Birth of a Nation was showed, that was the whole intent, right? These are Hitler's tactics, actually. So it's like they're trying to rile people up. So if they go and attack a group of people, there's no cry out, right? So they have to demonize them. Because if you look in war, right?
Exactly, man.
Go back to the Persian Gulf, these people weren't human beings. They were killing like what you're talking about now. They were what, insurgents and all this other stuff, right? Like when the Europeans came to America, the indigenous people were savages and they had to civilize them.
Yeah.
So the story goes.
Yeah. So, I see what you're saying. So with that said, I ask AI, right? So I go into Copilot, I type in, is it an oxymoron to be a Christian and a racist?
A Christian and a racist. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what did you get out of that?
AI came back, said exactly what Scott was saying, because if Christianity's based upon, the teachings of Yeshua in his life, then, it was all about unity, peace, helping your fellow man, what you do for the least of my brother and you do unto me, all that stuff, right? So to hear the rhetoric that you hear now, like, black people kill white people at 20% higher rate, like kind of bullshit is that, right? So, and it's like, even when it comes to people in our community, right, they're like black on black crime. So that's all you hear, right? So
Right.
black on black crime, maybe 80%, somewhere in the 80s, right? 80% of crimes committed against black people are committed by black people. Well, guess what? 80 something percent of crimes committed against white people are committed by who? White people.
White people.
Latinos, Latino people, Asians. It's all about proximity.
Exactly.
So you know what I'm saying? And it's like what they don't talk about is the large number of white men who beat the shit out of their wife and kids and raping their kids. Like those are the number one. That's the number one group committing crimes within domestic violence.
Yep.
We don't hear about that. We get selective amnesia when it comes to serial killers. As soon as I hear somebody went into somewhere and shot up 50 people, I know who did it.
You got a 90% chance of guessing right.
Yeah. So it's like we have selective amnesia when we talk about that. In the name of conquest, we could go murder men, women, and children. Like when you start killing off the elderly and children and women and things like that, it's like, and then you do it in the name of war, so that doesn't count. So these are the people that are running around saying they're Christian, and these are the things that they're talking about without putting them in context, right? So what do you guys think about that?
And by the way, another part of the fake Christian thing is they're so against people being woke. They've demonized that word. and they've made it something that it's not. Being woke is just caring about the underrepresented, the marginalized, right? And caring about the injustices in the world. Like that's what it is. And also it's very spiritual too for me. You know, being awake to who we are and why we're here and who we actually are as a spirit, as opposed to this meat suit that we be wearing, right? But these are all Christian people who are completely again. And I know people that are like that. And they'll tell me straight up, "Oh, woke people, you know this." And I was like, "Tell me what that means." Well, you know, they have no clue what it even means, man. But they want to spit all this hatred towards it, and it's literally what Yeshua taught to love each other, be kind to each other, have compassion and empathy, and help each other. That's all it is. But the Republicans specifically have demonized that word and made it sound like it's something bad, and they're really good at doing it, right? Like if you don't know better, you're like, right? Yeah, and it's just ridiculous.
It is. It really is. You know, one of the things talking about kind of going back to Israel becoming a nation. They have done so much evil to make that happen. I mean, when you go back and you look at how deep this thing goes, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but summarizing it is that these people have an agenda, and we're seeing it being played out right now in our world. 100%. You know, and when I start seeing stuff like what's happening with President Trump and how they're using this guy, I mean, either he's the smartest moron there is, and I hate to put it that way.
Speaking of oxymorons.
Yeah. Or he's just doing everything by the book and he doesn't even know what he's doing, but he's doing it. And what I mean by that is he's going around and you guys know, man, this guy loves stroking his back, man. This guy is all about himself, man. I've never seen someone who is just so egotistical. This guy is just all about himself. And the other thing that bothers me is that the Christians are just, and I've always noticed this, and this is why, for those that are out there, I am not a Christian. I don't say that to speak ill of anybody else. It's just because when I started looking into the history, that is not what the Messiah came and taught. That they literally propaganda. I can't even say this right.
Propagandized.
Thank you, sir. Propagandized.
You're welcome.
The religious belief called Christianity, and they did this even before Constantine got a hold of it. It was slowly, this thing was already kind of making its ranks, but once Constantine came around 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, they started changing a lot of this information. And so what we have now is the empire's religion, and it's called Christianity. This wasn't what the Messiah gave us. And so what you're seeing is exactly what the book said was going to happen in these last days, was that we're all going to see this fourth beast that was going to rise. And this beast that was going to rise was going to be like any other kingdom that ever came before it. And it is shown in the book of Daniel as a beast of iron. And so this is what Rome represents. And so and you guys, man, you know, when we talk about this, you guys already know, but I'm just going to say this because the people who don't know our mindset. So, but this country and the way it came about, like where Washington, D.C. is set up between Maryland and Virginia. It's not by accident. The name of the city was
Maryland and Virgin land.
Exactly. But even the city, Washington, D.C., when it was first cited, it was called Rome. Here in this country, it was called Rome first.
That's a fact.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. And the what's the name of that river that goes through D.C.?
The Potomac.
The Potomac. They called it what's the one over in Rome? There's one in Rome that goes right there through Rome. I forget the name of it. But it's the same river. And I was like, this is crazy. And then you look at the architecture, right? All the architecture with the columns, the pyramid on top of the columns, the obelisk, what we call the Washington Monument, 555 feet tall. Nothing can be taller than that. by code over there in DC. I mean, so all this is set up because of these people that have an agenda. And now that they have this AI technology, and I don't want to go into all different angles, but these Christians are really riding, and they're doing everything according to what their pastors and preachers and teachers and evangelists are teaching them, because they've all become what is called Christian Zionism. And so all these evangelicals, they're over here, man, their pockets are constantly going to Israel, and they love it so.
By the way, can you explain Christian Zionism? Like, define it.
So Christian Zionism is those that are Christians who believe that the Jewish people over there in Israel are the people, and that they need to bless Israel so that they can be blessed. If they don't bless them and they curse them by not helping them, then they're going to be cursed. And this is why they got all these Protestant Christians like Trump himself, who is now, I mean, think about it, man. The guy just flipped the script. He's all about Israel now. He's about Israel first before the United States. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't paid any attention, every president has to kiss the ring.
100%, 100%.
That's true.
But this dude is he's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, every president has to kiss the ring.
Yeah,
and it's because they're close to the end game.
Yeah, and they kiss the wall too.
Yeah, and if you recall, he talked about how beautiful the land was over there. I think they have some plans for the land. There's actually an area of land there that they named after Trump, but it's kind of desolate right now. There's not that much there. So, but there's a lot going on. There's a couple things you said that I want to touch on. Let's do this though before we get too far. I want to share my screen because I actually pulled up AI and what AI had to say. Let's see if I could get this here. Screen share.
And while you're doing that, I want to touch on how Ashkenazi white Jews became Jewish.
Okay, let's hold that thought for 1 second. We're going to definitely touch on that. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Is it big enough?
Let me make it bigger here.
Here, hold on 1 second.
Now, I just made it big on my screen.
Yeah, here, let me do this. Let me see. I think I could bring it up here. No, is it going to allow me? No, I don't think it's going to let me do what I wanted to do. Here, let me see. Can I remove myself?
Yep.
You just did.
Gone. He goes, can I remove myself? Nope. Gone.
We can't hear you either.
I
see your mouth moving though.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, there he goes.
All right, there. Let me stop sharing this. But I'll just read it in the background. Here, let me put this back here.
It was actually, I could actually see it pretty well when you had it up there.
Yeah, I could see it. Okay, Russ.
You did? Okay, I thought you said it was small.
Mm-mm.
All right, let's go back.
Yeah, I think you should bring it up for people to see it.
It was big enough for everybody to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it again then.
I just had to expand my screen so it was bigger. I didn't have it on. It wasn't expanded. It was on minimize.
All right. Oh yeah. Can I do this? Yeah. I'm not going to be able to read it from there. You can still hear me though, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm killing it, man.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and read it in the background. All right, so the question was, is it an oxymoron to be a Christian and a racist? So it says, yes, based upon core Christian teachings, the phrase Christian racist is widely considered as a devastating oxymoron. Hey, Scott, mute your phone, buddy. The fundamental tenets of Christianity, which emphasize love, equality, and human dignity, are in direct opposition to the principles of racism. Key biblical and theological principles that contradict racism include the creation of God, God's image, and it has imago Dei. The Bible states that all human beings, regardless of ethnicity or skin color, are created in the image of God. Genesis 1:26 through 27 establishes the inherent equal worth and dignity of all people. And it goes on and on, talking about things like love your neighbor, no partiality with God, unity with Christ, that racism is a sin.
That
right?
racism is a sin?
Right. And the last part here I'll read. While there have been instances in history where individuals claiming to be Christians have misused, misinterpreted scripture to justify slavery, racism, these actions are widely viewed by contemporary Christian thought as a betrayal of genuine Christian faith and a profound contradiction of core biblical values. So that, and there you could, other questions pop up, and it just goes deeper. So I already knew the answer, but I just wanted to see what it would say, because even if you look back, the Klan considered themselves a Christianite brotherhood type organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it really had anything with them being morally upright or anything like that.
No, man, they pervert the word.
Yeah, it's just a way to unite people and galvanize people to get them to do what you want them to do.
Right.
If you put the Christian label on it, you can pretty much say anything underneath it, and the gullible will say, well, it defaults to Christian, so it must be okay. You know what I mean? But the hypocrisy of these so-called Christians, what I call fake Christians, that walk around talking about, and they want everybody to be exactly like them. They want to walk like that. They want them to walk like them, talk like them, worship like them, everything like them. And it's not right, because we're not all like them. Right. We're all different people, and we have different lives,
But I think that and this is not the best Christians, because there are a lot of good Christians out there. Like,
no, there are the ones that really actually do the word
believe.
Of
Yeah. I think
absolutely
what we're really leaning toward here are the structured racism that lies within government, media, religion, the school system. And this is what people don't like to talk about, and we're going to delve into that a little bit more too. But you were talking about Washington, D.C. and all that good stuff, right? So let's go back to the start of, say, the United States, right? So United States starts in 1776, but prior to that, what was going on? Columbus is sent out. No, let's go back a little further. I'm gonna give a little history lesson right here. So the Moors conquer Spain from 711 to 1492. So these are North Africans that roll up into Spain and set up camp in Spain and Portugal, aka the Iberian Peninsula, and they're there from 711 to 1492 before they're finally overthrown by the Catholic Church, right? So 1492, within months, Isabel and Ferdinand, who are the king and queen, they send Columbus to discover new territories. He didn't get lost. That's BS, right? Because the Moors were coming back and forth to the Americas, trading sugar, all kind of other stuff, right? They knew all the trade routes. And, there's a lot of things here, and it's a story for another day in America, showing that they were already here as well, right? So Columbus never even came to North America. He only went into Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and some along the east coast of South America, right? So he goes back. He tells the king that he found the people of God, because the people he discovered on this side of the earth, they were very friendly. They were greeting him with gifts, all this other stuff. He goes back, tells them, and this is after the first voyage, hey, we can conquer these people and they would be easy to enslave. Matter of fact, he even took some back. He took several back as slaves to the king and queen, and they didn't want no parts of it, right?
Mhm.
Time they didn't have slavery there; they had like servitude. But they seen what these people had built over here in this hemisphere, right? So fast forwarding, uh, well, no, let's stay there. So 1493, the Pope, based upon what they had found at that point, because once again, the Catholics conquered the Moors, right? And the Moors consisted of predominantly uh, the Islamic faith and some of the Jewish faith, right? So they created an edict to kick the Jews and Muslims out of the Iberian Peninsula. So a lot of them fled into southern France, different territories back into North Africa. Some of them were starting to come to America, to the Americas, like all over, right?
Mhm.
So now you come forward, the 1600s. King James is the King of Scotland, King James the Sixth of Scotland, and he's King James the First of England. He was ruling both at the same time and eventually united them. That's where United Kingdom comes in, right? United Scotland, Ireland, Wales, France, England. And the 1600s, he creates, along with some of his other cronies, they create the Virginia Company of London, where they get stocks, everything else. And the plan was to come to America searching for gold. They seen the tobacco trade that was taking place with the indigenous people in Virginia. They heard of, the sugar, all these other things that were going on, cotton. They wanted in because they seen that the Spanish and Portuguese had been coming back and forth, getting rich, and they were losing out. So about 1608, King James, the same king that wrote the Bible, 1608, King James, he was a black man. King James writes the first charter for Virginia. So the Virginia Company of London is how the state of Virginia comes into existence, through the Virginia Company of London, stockholders, everything, King James. So the 13 colonies were started by King James, his son, King Charles I, and his grandson, King Charles II. So 12 of the 13 states in the 13 colonies, these charters were written by these black Scottish kings. There's a whole line of them. So that's how all these other stories end up later being bullshit, right? So these are the people, this is how the 13 colonies got started. So you had all these people who were going to war. They were having these religious wars with the Catholic Church. And King James, in some of his books, actually talks about himself as a Hebrew. That's where the whole James thing comes from, right?
Mhm.
So now they're all under this Presbyterian umbrella, fleeing persecution of the Catholic Church. And they end up in Virginia, Massachusetts, North Carolina, all these places. So majority of these people were people of color.
Mhm.
You had some mixed race people, because there was a lot of that going on in England at the time, because you had a lot of these black people were empowered. This is one of the biggest secrets that they don't want us to know. And the thing is, most of those, that's why that one book, when Scotland was Jewish, and they prove a lot of this stuff with DNA and everything else. That's a story for a different day. But anyway, this is how America is founded. So if you look, the early people coming into the colonies in the 1700s were predominantly black. That's why you see South Carolina, you see Virginia, all up on the coast is very heavily melanated. And later, what happens is, matter of fact, the 13th colony ended up being Georgia in, like, say, 1730s with King George first, second, third, right? King George, another black man. You could actually Google the coin, the Barbados coin, with his picture on it, with his nappy afro. And there's another picture you could actually write to the, I think it's to the British Museum, if I'm not mistaken, and get a picture. Actually shows a picture of him. And that's the one that was married to Queen Charlotte, who Charlotte, North Carolina is named after. Mm-hmm. So Jamestown, Virginia is named after King James when it first got established. He writes the He writes charter for Virginia in 1608, and guess what he writes in 1611? The
Wow.
Bible, because they used the Bible to rule the land.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first, their whole investment scheme wasn't working. They weren't finding gold because a lot of the gold was being found later, like in Georgia, and then they started going out west to California. That's when the gold rush took place. So their investment wasn't working out. And in their documentation, they state, well, maybe religion would be even a better tool. So that's when they start pushing Christianity. And he came up with his version of the Bible so that people can read it in English.
So King James create the King James version here in the U.S.?
No, he wasn't in the U.S., but he wrote the charter for them to establish the colony in Virginia. So
Okay.
they negotiate land deals with the indigenous people, which later a lot of them reneged on and start stealing land. Like they said, okay, you stay on the right of the Appalachian Mountains. And later they come peeping across the mountains and skirmishes took place. Like even where they were at, a lot of skirmishes took place, right? And, you know, you could read where, you know, for hundreds of years, like a lot of these Europeans were getting their butts handed to them by these indigenous tribes, right? And because I got traced my Bruce line back into the 1700s, like Sarah and Joe Bruce, who I shared 4-time great grandparents, but Henry Louis Gates Jr. He always talks about how three of his 4 great sets of great grandparents were free before the Civil War, and he talks about his Bruce great grandparents, and Joe and Sarah are also his 4-time great grandparents. So that history is deep. So I've studied a lot about what was going on in those counties and stuff there in Virginia, you know, and some of the people who actually temporarily enslaved them and later set them free. And that's a story I'll talk about later. But anyway, I'm getting winded, but I just wanted to tell
Real
that.
quick, while you're on that topic, though, I wanted to ask a question. Did you find out in your studies when, I guess it's a 2-part question. When did history change and what was the reason for the history changing where they removed the melanated, like King James being melanated Hebrew and made him a Caucasian? When did that happen? And what was the agenda? Did you find any of that during your research of why what was the reason for it?
Well, you could see a lot of that started when they hijacked everything, right? When the picture of Jesus, which, you know, they say it happened back during the time of, like, I think Leonardo da Vinci or whatever, the Pope had him paint a picture of his son.
Mm-hmm. Sergio Borgia.
The Pope is the vicegerent. Exactly. The Pope is the vicegerent. Am I saying that correctly? The picture, he's sitting in the place. Yeah, he's sitting in place until Christ returns or God returns. And so if he gets a picture of his son, puts his son up there, he said, here's the Son of God, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a play on words, but everything, if you go back and look, and there's a scripture in the Bible, I don't have it in front of me, and it talked about how people would deceive the world by changing the images of the judges and the kings. So it's like if you look at history, man, anything that was a worthwhile, it got whitewashed and put a white face on it. Mm-hmm. And if we have time, I could do it now or I could do it later. I could go into the one book where the people who are trying to put the Stuart family back on the throne, right? So King James' last name, they went by Stuart. Mm-hmm. All right. So King James, King Charles, then King Charles II had his son, like King James II, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So he ended up getting kicked off the throne, and the people who tried to put that Stuart bloodline back on the throne, they referred to them as Jacobites. So there was something called the Jacobite rebellions. Mm-hmm. So there's actually shit manifest. You could go online because Archives has them, where these Jacobites were getting rounded up and shipped out because they were losing the war. You know, they got over the Jacobite rebellion. They were fighting to put King James' bloodline back on the throne. And realistically, I think they were actually fighting against their family. So it was like whoever was in power, whether it was the Catholics were in power or say the Protestants, right, which was everybody else umbrellaed up. The opposite, they would put them on ships, ship them out into the colonies. It would ship them to Barbados, Jamaica, all that. But in these Jacobite ship manifests, they described the people who were getting on there, and the majority of them were dark-skinned people. It gives their height, where they come from in Scotland. It gives, like whether they were a farmer. One guy was a writer, like George Hume, at the top of my head, I remember. And they said that, listen to him as a black man saying he would go well in Barbados. No. Because what they were doing, they were sending a lot of white servants / slaves into Jamaica and Barbados, and they were dying off quick because of the heat. The heat was too much. They didn't last long. So they were making sure they sent more of the melanated people into the islands and things like that. So
they were built for this.
Yeah. So during that time, so a lot of this stuff, man, if you Google it, you're going to see all white people, right? But you could, dude, it's so deep, man. Like history. Like I could go in and look back. Like what they won't tell you is that there were white slaves, right? And another thing they're not going to tell you is that slave trade didn't start with white people. It was black folks that were putting people in slavery, shipping them over to America.
Right.
Or to the islands, really. The majority of people, the African slaves, here's another thing. The African slaves, less than 5% came to North America. They didn't come to North America. They were sending them into Brazil and into the islands, to the Caribbean. So if you go to slavevoyages.org, there was 12.5 million slaves that they say came out of Africa. And that number had been changing, right? Back in the day, there was like 100 million slaves, blah, blah, blah. But now it's documented. You can go to slavevoyages.org, and on there it shows you where they embarked from and disembarked. So you could do it like in smaller regions, broader regions. But anyway, make a long story short, the majority of people here in North America, especially black people, their descendants were already here. You know what I'm saying? They come from the indigenous tribes here in America and mix with the black and white Europeans that were coming in the 1700s. So most people, if you're tracing your lineage back to the Carolinas, Virginia, stuff like that, most of those people were mixed. Even white people to this day, you got dark hair, dark eyes, and I hooped with some supposedly white people who grew afros. Things like that. It's like when they start shaking their tree, they're going to find out they had black people in their tree, right?
Yeah.
Because even when I read about my ancestors, I see where these white people are writing in the ancestry, trying to get them to change my ancestors from black to white, because they're like, I can't be from this black person. But
it's a nightmare to them.
Yeah. Because it's like, because I have friends who have biracial children, right? And I could see the ones who went on and say they're biracial and they marry a white person, and that next generation, they look white unless somebody tell them. Sometimes they might have a nose or something that might give them away, but a lot of times they pass, right? So, and that's what was going on back during that time. People were passing, right? So, you had certain people in, gosh, we're going to have to do another podcast because it's like, they're just talking about, but Scott, I think Angel, you were asking like, when did all this change, right? So a lot of people want to say it happened during, say, the Renaissance period, when Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci are painting all these pictures, and you start hearing stories of Othello and Shakespeare and all this other stuff. And the people that they're talking about are black people. These were the Moors that they were talking about, like Don Quixote in the, Cid.
That's what I'm saying. Like that is like such a there's so much vastness of this conspiracy that has infiltrated all of our textbooks to where we've all been taught this lie,
Right.
you know, like who the true people are of the book. You know, it's
Yeah,
been
let's go back to that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
talk on it. Scott,
So-
you want to talk about that too?
Yeah, go ahead though, Angel.
Yeah, so Genesis chapter 10, it literally tells you, and I can read. I got I can read. No, but I can read a passage.
Reading is fundamental.
So in Genesis chapter 10, it literally tells you where the Ashkenaz comes from. It literally calls them the Ashkenaz in Genesis chapter 10. Now, here's the crazy thing.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, in fact, look, let me just open this up real quick because I got it right in front of me. Look at this. I don't know if it's going to be reversed.
No.
Is it reversed?
Which one? Which one?
Okay, you'll see it underlined with an orange. It'll say Ashkenaz. Hold on, let me see what verse.
10 what? I don't see the orange. Do you see, Russ?
Yeah. Just read it. Just
10:3.
read it.
Look at 10:3 real quick. 10:3. You see it right there?
Oh, there it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Gomer's firstborn. Okay.
Here, I'm bring you to the forefront.
Okay.
Hold on one second. I just killed you. Hold on. Here, let's see. Yeah. All right, go ahead, man. I gotta learn. We're using a new platform. I gotta learn it, man.
No worries. So
yeah, go ahead and read that off to us.
But the amazing thing is, it says right there that it's Ashkenaz. So okay, so let me read that. Now, what I'm going to do is, because that's out of this is straight out of the Hebrew into the English. It's called the Scriptures, right? But I'm going to read out of the King Jimmy. Okay, King Jimmy. Genesis chapter 1, and this is when I say that this stuff is chapter 10, not 1. But when I say that this stuff has actually been foretold as prophecy, that there's something, this is an extraterrestrial document to me, to be able to see that a being has told us what was going to happen before it happened. And one of those things is where it says here in chapter 10 of Genesis, verse 3, it says, now the sons of Gomer are Ashkenaz and Riphath and Targama. Now, Targama is what we know today as modern day Turkey, in that area, all going through up towards the Caucasus Mountains. Okay, these are all what we know today as the Caucasians, not because of the color of their skin, but because this is where the Japhites, they went north. All right, now this is right after the flood. Well, Ashkenaz, which is where you get Khazaria. Khazaria is the Khazarian Empire, which we know part of it's in Ukraine, and it goes eastward towards I forget the other name of that country, but like all the stands, you know, like the Kazakhstans and the Jumekistan and all that, it goes all the way into that area. Well, now here's the thing. So I'm going to read the last part. This is verse 5. It says, by these were the islands of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after their language, after their families, and after their nations or ethnicities. So Ashkenaz, they were these people, and not only them, but all those who came from Japheth, they were called or considered in the scriptures as Gentiles. That was their name. They were Gentiles. So later on, we get the so-called Jew that comes from the tribe of Judah. So anybody who's not a Jew would automatically be called a Gentile. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that is, let me back up. Except for the other tribes of Israel, they weren't considered Gentiles because they too come from Israel. But that being said, Ashkenaz, notice this. Now we're going to and I'm going to end it here. Now we're going to Luke chapter 21. Check this out. Remember, the Japhites were called the islands of the Gentiles. That would include all up in the areas that we know that has been taken over by what you were saying, Russ, about Great Britain and all that area, like where they took over all Iceland, Greenland, Great Britain, Ireland, all that stuff. They took over all those isles. But check this out. Luke chapter 21, verse 24. This is it's a mind blower. Check this out. It says, And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, speaking of the Jews, okay? And let me be specific, Yahuda or Judah. And then it goes on and says, they will fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive or enslaved into all nations, okay? Then it speeds up and it says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled, which means to the very end, they're going to be the ones running this world. They're going to be running Jerusalem. Those are the people that are running Jerusalem. They're Ashkenaz. They say they're Ashkenaz. You know what I'm saying? They call themselves Ashkenazi Jews. So I just wanted to bring that out, that this is actually written in a document going from Genesis all the way to the New Testament in Luke, speaking of these people who are Ashkenaz, and that they would be considered Gentiles, and that those same people, the Gentiles, will be running Jerusalem until he cracks the sky. Crazy.
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah, do me a favor while you're in there, right?
Yeah.
Go to Revelations.
Oh, chapter 2, verse 9, or 3, verse 9?
3 verse 9. You already know.
Yeah, that's that one.
Angel's already on it.
Ooh, boy, I be slicing and dicing with the Ganchi knife on them girls and boys, boy. I tell you.
Hopefully we don't get hit with the anti.
No.
Well, but this is why you have to give receipts. You can't just pull it out of thin air. It's exactly. Like this is what's in there. And the thing is, read this and then tell me, who do you think that is? Who are they referring to?
You already know, but I'm gonna go there.
Hold up, say it. Say
it. Here you go.
I don't know.
I'm gonna read both of them if you don't mind, there, bro.
Go for it. No, take your time.
So Revelation chapter 2, verse 9 is real easy to remember. Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. In fact, the people in my group and the people that I speak to, you'll hear it even on TikTok. You'll hear people say those are the Rev 2, Rev 3:9 people. Is talking about these passages. Okay, so Revelation 2:9, Rev 2:9. It says this: I know your works and the tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of them who say that they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So that's Revelation 2:9. Okay, now Revelation 3:9.
So wait, let's pause right there.
Okay.
Who are they talking to and who are they talking about?
Those same people that I was just describing. The same people that
they talked about some people who were going to be jailed and blasphemed upon and all this other stuff, right? Who's that?
Well, the passage that I just wrote or read?
Yeah.
So the first part, it says, I know your works and your tribulation and poverty. So that's talking about those who are believers. Okay. The people who have given themselves to the truth and they're following the commandments of the Creator.
Okay.
Then it changes and says, and I know the blasphemy of them who call themselves Jews and are not, they are the synagogue of Satan. So this takes us back to, as Scott can testify, Skizzy can testify to this, and we've talked about this before. And again, you know, the truth is the truth, and I can't just like sugarcoat around it, because that's the problem with why everything has gone crazy right now. But the people who are running this world, the Western world, let me put it that way. They run Hollywood, they run the banks, they run the government, they run everything that we know, that
magazines, TV, radio, everything. Yep,
everything. And so and then they're worshipers of Satan. How many times have you heard them doing all this?
You ever look up the Star of David?
That's the Star of Remphan.
It's Remphan.
Yeah,
Remphan was a god of Saturn.
Yep.
It's a pagan god. It's not even. It has nothing to do with David. David never had that star.
Exactly.
That star that they put on their flags and everywhere. That's actually the god of Saturn.
So why do you? I
read that the other day.
Why do you think? And this is the craziest thing too. So the calendar that we're following right now is not the calendar that the people are following. But why do you think they're saying that the Sabbath is always on a Saturn's day? If you ever look, have you ever seen the top of the North Pole of Saturn?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember seeing a hexagram at the very top?
I remember seeing a hexagon. but not necessarily a hexagram.
Always see the ring around it. I never zoomed into the North Pole.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, there's like a perfect hexagon on the top.
What fits inside of a hexagon, bro?
Hexagram.
But what is that?
Something that
the Star of Ranfan.
Star of Ranfan. Yeah, I'm not.
The six-pointed star.
Build on that. Build on that. What is that?
So the six-pointed star, what they call the Star of David, is the Star of Ranfan, also known as the Star of Moloch in the Old Testament.
I'm so glad you know about this, Angel.
So the Star of Ranfan, or what they call the Star of Israel, the Israeli flag, the star that's on there, it fits perfectly on the Saturn top of the what do you call it? The North Pole of Saturn. Yeah. And so the hexagon there, if you was to superimpose a six-pointed star, it fits right there. And this is why I'm saying, why do you think they always say that their Sabbath is on a Saturn's day, a Saturday? Because this is where we also get the word hex from. Like if somebody puts a hex on you, it comes from this hexagram star. Okay, so it's like a curse. Now it is pagan. It's pagan through and through. And this is why.
No. Go ahead.
So this is why what you find in Scripture, you never find anywhere in Scripture about the Sabbath day being connected to anything as far as a star, okay, or a planet. But these people, when they went into Babylon, our ancestors, Russ, they went over there into Babylon because of Nebuchadnezzar took them into Babylon, okay, and made us, the children of Israel, become worshipers of the moon and of the heavenly hosts. And it talks about that in Jeremiah chapter 10, that the Creator was going to give all the hosts of the heavens to the nations and the Gentiles to worship, but his people were not supposed to do that. And so when they went into Babylon, they came out with the day starting in the evening. This is why these Jewish people are still doing that, because it comes from the teachings of our ancestors. So they think that the day.
Okay, while they're doing what? Like,
so they start to.
While they're doing.
Say that one more time.
No. Why are they doing what? You said this is why they're doing it. Like,
so these Jewish converts, right? When we were talking about Khazaria and these Ashkenaz who took on the label. Remember, you had me come here to Revelation 2:9 and 3:9,
right? Talking
about those who say that they.
And by the way, they're no more Jewish than the man on the moon.
Yeah, but they've taken and they usurped the name Jew, and this is why they call themselves Jewish. You won't find anywhere in Scripture where anyone's called Jewish.
So while we're here, let's break this down, right? So I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound crazy, but I'm gonna back it up, right? There was nobody. They say Yeshua, Jesus, walked the face of earth approximately 2,000 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was nobody that walked the face of the earth named Jesus.
That's right.
There was nobody back during that time named Jew.
That's right.
And that's because the letter J didn't even come into existence into the 1600s.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
1530 to be exact.
Right. So you have the Hebrew Bible, right? Yep. So what were those names? So what's the difference between a Hebrew and a Jew?
Okay, so
they're not the same thing.
No. So the Messiah's real name is not Yeshua. That's Aramaic for salvation in the English. His actual name, even if you say Yahushua or Yeshua, either one, Yahushua, Yahu is the beginning of the Creator's name, which is I am. Okay, Yah. So like when we say hallelujah, that's a phrase in Hebrew, which means praise I am. That's what hallelujah means. Praise I am. So when he says Yahusha, which is his actual name when he came down in the flesh, Yahusha means I am is salvation. That's what his name literally means in English. Okay, if you should translate it. But the transliteration from the Hebrew to the English is Yahusha. Now, Yeshua is Aramaic for salvation. You can look that up as well. Yahushua, now this is where we start getting all these different dialects because of James Strong, who gave us the Strong's Concordance. And so they started all these stupid Masoretic vowel points. You ever seen like dots and dashes in the modern Hebrew block system? You ever seen those dots and dashes?
Yep.
Those did not exist. That's a very modern thing that came around, I believe it was the 1100s. Okay. And when they did that, they started making their own vowel sounds using these Hebrew characters. And so you would have like Adam. So Adam is 3 Hebrew letters. It's the Aleph, Dalet, and Mem. Okay. ADM. Adam. Okay. Now, Adam also can be spelled ADM in the Hebrew as Adamah. Adamah is also speaking of the dirt of the earth. Now, the Adam, or excuse me, Dam means blood in Hebrew. So Adam's actual name is the blood man of the earth. That's what his name would mean if you was to bring it out into the English, right?
Yeah. Let's step back, Angel, while you're on this, right? Because you were on to something. So you gave us the Hebrew and Aramaic pronunciation of Yeshua's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did we get to Jesus?
Now that one is the one that, boy, okay. So we know that the New Testament, all we have is Greek translations of the New Testament. However, there is hints and codes that we know that the first originals were in Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you know, the Catholic Inquisition that they had going on back in the day, anything that had anything with Hebrew writing on it, they either burnt it or took it and put it into the vault at the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but there was a few that finally got out because they unearthed it or whatever, or somebody had it and it was like a heirloom in a family. So the book, or the Gospel of Matthew, was retrieved back in the 1500s by this Englishman who happened to have been traveling down into Rome, and he was presented with a Gospel of Matthew in Hebrew, first one that anybody's ever seen. Of course, it was a copy of, you know, whichever one was the actual original, but you can see it today at the Biblioteca in Paris. They actually have the whole volume there in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. Well, when you read that, you'll see that where it says the Archangel Gabriel told Joseph, your wife is about to have a baby, and what she has in her is going to be the Most High coming down. Okay. And he would be what we know in Hebrew as Emmanuel, which means mighty one with us. That's what Emmanuel means. So that's a phrase. And so when all these parchments were destroyed or missing, all we had was the Greek. Now, when you go back and you look at the Jesus or Iesus, as they pronounce it in the Greek, you start to find out where you get this the changing of, like, you see all these other empires. When they take over an empire, not only do they take over the people and their culture and their ideologies, but they also take over their idols and their religion, and they'll take their gods and make it their own. And so Zeus became Jupiter in Latin, right? With the Romans. The Romans believe Jupiter and Zeus were the same being, but they just called him Jupiter, or Jupiter, as they would say, because there was no letter J. So the same thing happened with the name Yahusha turned into Jesus, or what we know as Iesus, because in the Greek pantheon of deities, Zeus was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He was the God. And so Zeus, so here
but he was a pagan god, though.
He's a pagan god, yeah.
Okay.
But they took, this is what I'm saying, they took everything. You can look into all of this. In fact, I have I'll have to show it in another episode, but let
me say this while you're on that, because some people even say Iasus was translated into ISIS.
Yes. And but here's the crazy thing. In the Arabic, they call Jesus Isa.
Yep. Okay. They do.
Right?
Yep.
They call him Isa. The other countries like China, Japan, Korea, Zimbabwe, certain areas of the African countries, they call him Yeshu. Yeshu comes from the Jesuit priesthood. We call it the Jesuit priesthood. The Jesuits, who are the Catholics, have been going all over the place. That's why they call themselves Catholics, because they're the universal church, the mother church, and they went proselytizing all these countries. So this is what they did. If they didn't win you over with the gospel, they're coming in with swords.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what they did. And guess what? They're still doing it now. Christianity.
Oh, that's how America was founded.
And they're still doing it.
Or
They're
United States.
Bullets.
Yeah. So religion has been used as a tool of conquest throughout history, and more people have died in the name of religion than anything else.
Right.
100%.
So religion's like a gun, right? It's neutral. It could be used to liberate. It could be used to enslave. It could be used for many different things. But when you look at the history here and what's going on in the world, you have these religious zealots who will murder you. They will kill you.
Throughout time, it's been that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But you'll see, though, it's like even going back, like I was saying, when the Pope in 1493 wrote the Doctrine of Discovery, that's where you get Columbus discovered America, because they gave them the right to go out and rape, pillage, kill, do whatever in the name of the Lord.
Yeah.
Any non-Christian. So you had a situation here that most ancient people around the world, they were into natural law. You know what I'm saying? So like here, it's like the ancestors worshiped the Great Spirit. And they were more in the natural law. And I always say this, me and my wife always tease about this, because like the scripture said, God's no respecter of person, right?
Right.
So it's like you could give me somebody who believes in Judaism, the Hebrew faith, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Christianity, you name it. We can go down and name all the different religions. We put them all up on a 100-foot roof, line them up, and they ass jump. The law of gravity don't give a damn what you believe in. There's immutable laws that govern the universe. And if what you believe does not align with natural law, it's not coming from the Most High. It's not coming from the Creator. And that goes back to why love is so important, because that's the one thing that puts everything in motion. It transforms everything. And even getting back to like a creator, and it's like, and I thought about this over the years, and it's like, you can't even think of a universal prime creator or cause without thinking about energy, right? Like spirit is energy. It's the one thing that's not created nor destroyed. It just moves and changes shape and form. And each one of us have a soul, right? We have that spirit, that spark of God, and that's like we're in the image. That spark is that energetic force. That's why it says worship in truth, worship in spirit and truth. So, and it's like that's why we're so close, because we worship, even though like people hear us talking, a lot of people don't believe what we believe, and that's cool. Right? But we could dialogue and we could have a conversation, right? But that our soul energy is like when we pass this physical realm, they say what? They gave up the ghosts. Your body goes cold because that energetic force leaves the body. And Scott, we talked about like the near-death experiences, right? That energetic force leaves the body and unites with the all, right? Like we have this energy like in between. Like if you look at the wall, it's like this energy in this field. This field is not just blank space. It's a charged up energy field. You could pull out your keys and get your car to church. There's no wire. It's going through this energetic field that maintains energy. And we're no different than your damn cell phone, right? It's like I could send you a picture. There's no cables. There's no nothing, right? Back in the day, you would have been considered a sorcerer to do something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
We're no different. We walk around. We're getting thoughts and energy coming from the universe, right? And they say consciousness is not housed in the brain. It's
downloaded.
It's in the field, right? The Akashic field, right? So when we start talking about religions and all that, that's why I years ago had to refrain from religion per se. Like I believe in God, right? But I believe in God, the universal prime cause that put the sun, stars, the moon, and everything in motion that connects everything. Like this phone has energy potential, this glass, a rock has energy in it, right? That's what connects everything and everybody. And that's why we have to at some point get away from the religious dogma and get into truth, right? Get into truth, get into love, because it's the only thing that's sustainable, right? The energy of the planet, if there is a solar system, we're on flat earth, whatever the hell we're doing, that energy is evolving. You know what I'm saying? And it's like nobody's going to survive if we don't evolve and get into a more loving, harmonious spirit where we could live like his brothers and sisters. Yes,
Can
sir.
I touch on that? Yeah.
Yes.
So I observe this, right? Love, fear, all feelings carry a vibration, right? The higher the vibration, the more it's attuned to love and joy and happiness. The lower vibrations are fear and hatred and things like that. So what I've noticed, and this has been happening for a while now, is there's been an evolution of the human spirit over these last few years where we are evolving as human beings spiritually and energetically, and more people are becoming awake to this vibration and to this higher energy that is love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the powers that be, especially the older powers that be, you either go with that flow or you fight it, right? And that's why we're seeing all this anti-love energy that's going on, because man, this is like their last stronghold that they're trying to hold on to, this old way of thinking with that is by fear. If you listen to Trump, dude, almost everything he talks about is fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
That's the opposite of God.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your vibrations, this is love, the bottom is fear. That's where he lives, because they're horrified that the world is waking up and realizing that the only vibration we should be giving out in our field is love and happiness and joy and compassion and empathy and all those things. That's why you're seeing anti-woke stuff and anti-everything. They're all about compassion and empathy. Like Charlie Kirk said it. He goes, empathy is horrible. It's a bad thing. I don't know if he said exactly, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said empathy is bad. You've heard Hegseth said it. You've heard what's his face from DeSantis say it. You've heard Trump say it, because they're hanging on to that low energy fear paradigm where they know that everybody's starting to wake up and we're going to see all the bullcrap that's going on. And the more of us, once it gets that critical mass, it's over for them. And that's why I feel like we're seeing this last hurrah of them going so far to the other side, so desperate to keep that power. I don't know if it's going to stay, because I think there's more of us than there are of them. And I feel like every day there's becoming more and more people that understand why we're here, what our purpose is, that we're spirits living a human existence, all that stuff. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And the powers that don't believe in that or feel like they're losing control because of that, they fight it with tooth and nail, And that's why we're seeing this upheaval. And I tell my kids, I said, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but it's a process we have to go through to get to the other side. So that's all I have to say about that.
That's dope, man. And you touched on something. You said critical mass. That reminded me of a book I read a while back. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. He talked about critical mass. Like once you get to critical mass, like a tipping point. Like you don't need 100% of the people to all like be on the same path or idea. But say 10, 13%, whatever that magic number is, it will cause it to tip. And after a while, certain things are contagious, right? And love is like a germ, man. It could spread, like when you meet people and you're smiling and you're greeting them with a loving spirit, you're warm, you're humble, and you're real, right? So it's like if you're just spewing out a bunch of dogma and rhetoric, that's one thing. But when you're speaking from the heart, you touch people in the heart. And real people know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You feel in your heart that, hey, this person's real, right? Every now and then
it ripples.
Yeah, it does. It's like, so that's why, we just have to be more authentic. And that's one of the reasons why we deal with each other that way. And that's why we've been friends for so long. So.
Yep, exactly. And I've been teaching my kids since they were babies of the ripple effect of love and kindness and doing good things for other people. Right. It ripples out.
Yeah.
They do kindness. The next person does kindness. The next person does kindness because they receive kindness, and it just ripples out. And then the adverse or the converse is you do something mean to somebody, they go do something mean to somebody, and it ripples out. And I've been teaching them that forever. And my kids live by it. They live with love and compassion and kindness,
Scott mentioned, and I remember you saying something a few years ago, it was so dope. You talked about when you picked them up from school. What's that one thing you always asked them about how they interacted with other people?
I did it today. I did it twice today. I asked them who they love today. Yeah. I asked Kiki, she's 10. She's in 4th grade. I've been asking her since she was in TK pretty much every day. When we're walking from the school to the car, I ask her who she loved today. And she always has some kind of story. Like I helped somebody with their homework, or I gave someone a hug, or I stood up for somebody, or whatever. And I instill that in her every day. And a lot of times she'll tell me who she loved before I even ask her, And I used to do it with the triplets all the time. When they were her age, I used to always ask, who'd you guys love today? And they'd always have all these stories. And today, it's funny that you asked this because I got away from that everyday thing with the triplets because they're going to be 17 years old and they know. They already know how they should be, right? I'm still teaching Kiki, although she knows too. But Angie was telling me, I didn't tell you guys, Marina High School, where they go, edit that out, please. I don't want nobody to know where they go. They had a lockdown today. I didn't tell you guys this.
What?
I was taking them to school, right? This is this morning, man. I was taking them to school, and all of a sudden, the kids got an alert on their phone, email, that said the school's on total lockdown. Nobody come here. And if anybody is there, find a room and barricade yourself and turn off the lights and turn off your phones. Like,
dang.
That was happening this morning, man.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was right down the street, not like you're kind of right down the street, Angel. Angel, where you live? I live right down the street. I live here. He lives in Vegas. Anyways,
it's right down the street.
So we turned around, and there were cop cars flying everywhere. And I take Kiki over to her school. It's like 10 minutes away, and the triplets are still with me. Normally, I drop them off first, and then we go home because we don't know what's going on. And her friends were in the school already, like at 0 period, and they're in there like locked in the locker room, texting Angie, crying and just like freaking out, man, because they thought that there was
active shooter
or something.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And then we got home, and about 10 minutes later, they said it was all clear. So I took them back reluctantly. I kind of feel like I should just let them stay home because it was kind of traumatic. But I took them back. I said, you guys got some important classes today, so go. But anyways, it ended up there was some road rage incident, and this dude chased somebody onto campus with a gun.
That's terrible.
That's what happened today. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that you can't even, and this is why I tell my wife, same thing. I'm like, babe, somebody cut you off or somebody's over here.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I told my kids that too. I was like,
yeah,
that's why you don't mess with people, man.
Do this.
I said, let the idiots be idiots.
Yeah.
we're at a higher level. Just if they want to be like that, just be like, whatever, man. You live your low level life. I don't care. You know. But anyways, Angie was telling me that this one girl in class was crying. Like she was really up. Like this was a couple periods later that she was crying and really upset. She got very traumatized by it. And Angie and one of her friends, one of her best friends, they went over to her during class and they went and they hugged her and told her it was going to be okay and not to worry. And I was like, baby, you know what that is, right? She goes, love. I'm like, that's love. That's great love, you know? And it was also really cool when we were dropping off before Kiki got out of the car because we were early. Angie was crying because she was upset about her friends being there and not knowing and all that stuff. And she goes, Dad, can I pray? Can I pray for the people at the school? I'm like, yeah. So she said this beautiful prayer, man. And my heart was just like melting, dude, that she even brought that up to do that, you know?
Right.
Really cool.
You raising them right, man.
In the scriptures, it says that out of the mouth of babes, Yahuwah has perfected praise. So it's, you know, it's the young ones, man, that that's the way our heart condition needs to be. Our heart posture needs to be like that. And
I wish truly that more parents in the world, and I think it's becoming more and more prevalent. I mean, look at our generation when we were kids and how we came up with basically zero supervision, right? Yeah. And like free range chickens, all three of us just pretty much doing whatever, you know. I used to run wild with Russell back in the day, you know. And this generation, parents are much more involved, much more in tune, and hopefully that they're teaching their kids the right way. But then you see all these young kids that are just so obviously being taught old school, low energy way, and it's sad. But you know, I was brought up that way, but I broke the chain. I broke the chain. I was like, that's not going to be me, you know? So anyways.
Yeah. So with that said, Angel, let's get close to wrapping this up. We're going to have to do
we're getting on an hour and a half.
So much that we talked about that I'm like, hey, we need to go back, clean this up, give it some more perspective. So, you know, people totally understand, but we'll be talking till tomorrow morning sometime. Yes. But Angel, what advice would you give to the people out there, you know, in relationship to some of the things we talked about? Like we all kind of want the same thing, you know. Yeah. We want to see a better America. We want to see a better world. What advice do you have for the people out there?
Flee Christianity. No, seriously.
I was trying to be serious, man.
You know, the thing is, of course, love is definitely the glue, because even in scripture, it says that love covers a whole lot of sin. And, you know, I, for one, as you guys know, I'm all about spirituality in the sense of that we do have our creator. Even if one doesn't acknowledge him or doesn't know him, the fact is that your life is so much better when you live for something greater than yourself. True. And when you find who he is, like you asked that question earlier, Russ, about, you know, the truth. The word "the truth" means that there's only one truth. Now, we all have opinions, but for us to get to that shalom, as we would say in Hebrew, that shalom as they say it now, but it's shalom is the original pronunciation. That goes beyond just having this calm, this peace, but to have that connection, knowing that when everything is said and done, you've done everything that you were supposed to do, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. When you do that, man, I get chickadees when I think about that. You know, it's like you just know that you're no longer living for yourself. You're living for everybody that's around you. And the only thing that can happen is only good things are going to come your way because you're giving, always giving. You know, and this is why it says it's better to give than to receive. You know, that's a Christian principle that they have taken that was truly a Hebrew principle, that we was always to give, because you're going to always get something back. like today, for example, real quick.
No,
I finished
take
the
your time.
job. Yeah, I finished the job, and I had changed out a washer, and so those of you out there, if you're wondering what I do, I'm like a handyman by trade. So I do that construction, little light construction stuff. So, anyways, I took a washer out of a condominium today, and I'm getting ready to take it in the back of the truck. I put it in the back of the Tacoma. I'm driving down the street. I'm thinking tomorrow, okay, I'm going to go and dump it over at the landfill. This guy pulls up next to me, rolls down his window. I'm like, okay, this is going to go one or two ways. I don't know if this guy's getting ready to shoot me or if he's going to ask me a question. So he rolls down the window. I happen to look over, and he says, first he starts speaking Spanish to me because he thought I was Hispanic. And so I was like, mi español es muy mal. That's what I said to him. And so he starts speaking to me in English. He goes, how much do you want for that washer? I'm like,
I'll take $100 for it.
How much do you want? And I was like, how much do you want to pay for it? He was like, I give you 50. I was like, pull on over. I'll take care. You can take it right here.
Hey, did it work?
Yeah, definitely. And then not only that, but right before I got on here, he went to go. So I guess he goes around. He just picks up washers and dryers. And so I just happened to have been on his route today, and he sees me. So he's like, do you have any more else? I was like, I got 2 more at the house. Nice. So he just came here before we got on here.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And gave me $100 for the other 2. I'm like, man, wasn't even expecting it, you know. Nice. But again, this is from just giving and giving and giving. You know what I mean? Because that's the way I just want to live my life. It's just to give. I always try to be there for people because people have been there for me. Both of you guys have been there in my life back in the past. You know what I mean? Scott, you know what we went through together from the time that, you know, when I was without getting into personal stuff, but I was on the lam. I was a person who was running from the feds for 8 years. So I know a little bit about, you know, trying to stay under the radar.
Careful now.
Yeah, but you know, so now it's like these days you can't live your life like that. And so but I say all that to say is that, you know, what you put out is what you're going to get. And people have helped me out. And yeah, it's so true about paying it forward. You should always pay forward, you know, but these are principles that has been given to us from the very beginning of man. That has been, it came with instructions. We came with instructions on how to treat one another. Now, if we want to use it or not, that's up to us. But if you don't, you're going to wonder why you're either going to have a short life, or you're going to be locked up, or you're going to just be miserable.
Yep.
Miserable most of your life. And all you're going to do is just want to cast that misery onto other people. But you know, all it takes is just a second just to change your life, and you'll see how things around you just change instantly too.
Man, that is so true.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Scott, what advice do you have for the people out there on anything?
I mean, Angel kind of said it all, but you guys know how I live, man. I live by simple principles. Number 1, to love, compassion, empathy, doing for others. And, you know, especially to the people out there that when I talk about this to people, whether it's my kids or whoever, I always say, especially the people that don't look like you or talk like you or act like you. Those are the people you should especially be kind to and be thoughtful to and love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's
true.
That's basically, if everybody would just live by those simple 4 principles, this world would be heaven on earth, you know? But it's not. And hopefully more and more people will come to that. But as I said, there's going to be a big fight. There's a big fight going on between one side and the other, because they're horrified that this is all going to go this way and they're not going to have that power anymore, because it's all about the power, you know? But what do you think, Russ?
Well, you know.
Yeah, Russ, what you think, Russ?
Hey, Russ, what you think?
What Russ think? So, yeah, I think you guys are spot on. I think most of the people, though, that we give some of these people too much credit. I think a lot of them are just puppets. They're faces for something much bigger.
For sure.
This thing runs very deep, right? And sometimes we have to watch it because it's like it's so bad that sometimes the bad guy is actually the good guy and vice versa, right? And that's why a lot of times, like, you don't see me posting about like politics and all this other stuff, right? Starting to speak out a little bit more because I think it's crucial, right? I think because there's so many people that are just in the dark, you know, and all they believe in are the sound bites they get from CNN or Fox, right? So if you're Democrat, you watch CNN. If you're Republican, you watch Fox, you know, and it's like,
if you're gay or lesbian, you watch MSNBC.
and if you're smart, you don't watch any of them.
That part, you know, it's like, so it's like that's one reason why I stay out a lot of this. And I don't even watch television. I don't think I had a cable subscription for the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, me too.
I pick and choose what goes into my brain, and I think if I can give anybody else any advice out there, it's like turn the television off. You know, pray, meditate. You know, research things that are near and dear to your heart. If there's issues in the world, like some of the stuff we're talking about, you're not going to get that on the news. That's why some of it sounds crazy as hell. You know, you get that from reading books we've read.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, we'll get vilified by the people that get sound bites and they believe everything you see on television. And they don't realize, man, you know, they didn't call it the theater of war for no reason. A lot of times stuff that we think's going on is old video footage. And now with AI, you don't know what the hell you're looking at.
I know, man. I don't like that at all, actually.
AI
I'm not a fan
so
of AI
good.
at all. Because you can't tell what's real or not.
Yeah, it's getting so good. So here's the whole thing, because it's always been a war for the minds of the people. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like even during slavery, you don't have a slave until you could control their mind.
Yeah.
You know, you can conquer somebody and hold them as a prisoner of war, but they don't become a slave until you have them thinking that there's something other than what they are. And, you know, all this other stuff, like, and that's one of the things I'm trying to help people overcome, because our people are jacked up, man, you know, because, you know, and I was there, like they told us these stories that they kidnapped us from Africa and brought us here on ships and all this other shit. And it's like, now you sit back and you look at it, you like, it's impossible for them to have done that. It didn't happen the way that they said it happened. You know, did slavery happen? Yeah, not on the level it did, because, you know, there's books out there. I see like there's 1830 free Negro slave owner books. So there are a lot of black people who were landowners, and they called them slaves, but they were really employees, right, for the most part. And a lot of times it was their family members that were on the plantations. You know, Carolinas, there's a book 1790, free Negro slave owners in the Carolinas or North Carolina. You know, black people were here way before the end of the Civil War.
Yes.
And then when the Civil War, and this is interesting, and I wanted to touch on this early, and I'm going to try to keep this short. The majority of the so-called white people that we see today that are in the media or on television, the cameras are on them, doing all this talking, they're first, second generation here in this country. And this is something people could look up. Approximately 70% of most so-called white, this whole white and black thing is their political constructs. It has nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
White, black, race wasn't even a thing until the 1600s.
Exactly. We'll come back and talk about that. We can close out on that one, right? So the majority of the so-called white people came after the Civil War. They came between 1865, 1920, or say even 1950. Because what happened is when the Civil War and say slavery ended, black people were the dominant race in this country, especially in the Southeast, right? Like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. And if you look, the political structure, the majority of your senators, the majority of the mayors, everything were black people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they were Republicans. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, because the country, it was a republic. That's why they say, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, which they had us doing with your kids, to this republic for which it stands.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of black people didn't become Democrat until King got locked up in the 60s, right? And Kennedy was running. Kennedy gets him out of prison and needed their help to get him elected. Kennedy gets killed. And then Johnson passes civil rights legislation. And in his own writings, he stated if he was the one that passed that civil rights legislation, he'd have black people voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
And here it is.
Here we are. And we don't know the difference between a Democrat, Republican. It's just two wings on the same bird. Mm-hmm. But if you look, our ancestors were landowners. They were morally upright. They were more married than any other group in this country. We were like married age people. We were like 90-something% married, coming all the way up to.
By the way,
70s.
We got to talk at some point about the massacres that occurred that nobody ever.
Right.
Tulsa.
Yeah. So
let's save that for another one, because we're going to talk about an hour just on that.
Yeah, because what I'm saying, that it would segue right into that, because that's what happened is when the power switched hands, which it didn't happen until the 1880s, mid 1880s. That's when the flooding of all these Eastern European immigrants came into the country, and they went to war against the indigenous people here. And if you look, and you mentioned Oklahoma, 1924 is when that massacre occurred, right?
In Tulsa,
Right. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Was that Black Wall Street?
Right, it was Black Wall Street. They called it Black Wall Street, but here's the significance of that, right? So prior to that, you had the Trail of Tears, where they were pushing the indigenous people off the land in the Southeast into Indian territory, which was mainly Oklahoma. And smack dab in the middle of Indian territory is Black Wall Street. So all throughout Oklahoma, you have a whole bunch of all black towns, and these black people became very wealthy. Like, so they forced them into an area that they thought was just barren land, and these black folks struck oil, became very wealthy. And do you know, in the 1920s, during that period, that Tulsa, Oklahoma was barreling up more oil than Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
You can Google that one right now. Oklahoma, Tulsa specifically, was distributing more oil than Saudi Arabia. It was the oil capital of the world.
That's crazy.
These black people became very wealthy. Another name you could look up, Sarah Rector, became the richest woman in the world. She was a young black girl who, when the land was being divvied up to these indigenous people, because these black people were the Indians, right? So you had Plains Indians out west, but the Southeast Indians were our ancestors. So when I trace my roots back into Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, those people had already been there. They had been there for thousands of years, and they're connected into the Mayans who came up from Mexico and so forth. Facts, they've been going back and forth trading. And matter of fact, even during some of those uprisings that we're talking about, some fled, like especially in Louisiana. Like when I studied my wife's history, some of her ancestors went down in Veracruz, Mexico, and things of that nature, because they'd always been going back and forth, like trading. Black people lived in Mexico. Matter of fact, Texas was part of Mexico, California. There were a lot of black people who were already there. The people you see today, mestizos and things of that nature, are a mixture of people from the coolie slave trade when they were bringing the Chinese into Mexico, the Filipino slave trade, they were bringing them into Mexico as well. Some of them ended up in America, but these people later got reclassified as Native American, but they're Asian descent, right?
Yeah, and hence why you see the Mongolian blood in them.
Exactly. So the thing is, if you look at the Seminole Wars But anyway, Scott, yeah. So there were all these different riots. They really weren't riots. They
They weren't riots. They were slaughters.
Yeah. So what happened is when all these millions of Eastern Europeans came into the country, you know, they would meet, you know, they get their cards and all their information, and they were given an area that they were going to be sent to. They would meet with a preacher the whole nine, given an English name and all this other stuff, and they were given a gun.
Hmm.
And they were like, "What's the gun for?" It's like there's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy that you're coming to take their land, and they went to war with the people who were here. But you'll hear of all these Indian wars, but all you see is black people. Excuse me, and you'll see also that prior to the supposed, or not the supposed, prior to the African slave trade, they were enslaving the indigenous people on the land. And every time, whether it's a picture or whatever, you don't see the Asian Indians on the land. You see black people. And these are the people that they refer to as Indians, which is also a misnomer.
Straight Negroes.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we close out, we always like to say, is there a book or something out there that you guys would like to refer somebody to? It could be about anything. It could be about what we talked about, or anything you think that might help elevate their consciousness, or what have you.
You go first, Angel, because I got one, but I got to look it up.
Well, of course, the one that I'm going to say is going to be the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? That's the one. In fact, the one that I would say, don't just go buy anyone. You need to get this one. It's called the Yah Scriptures with the Apocrypha.
So that has the missing books?
Yes. This one has the books like Enoch, Jubilees, Sirach, Baruch. There's a few others, but I would have to caution everyone. Huh?
The Book of Thomas in there?
No, that would be the Gnostic writings.
All right.
The Book of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, those would be the Gnostic writings. But this one is the Apocryphas that most of them were found in the Dead Sea caves.
And one more thing while you're mentioning that, I talked about King James earlier. Do you know that King James, there was an introduction that was actually in the King James version originally, right? That, you know, like after they lost power, everything else, that was taken out of the Bible. But you could Google King James version introduction. Excuse me. But in the
introduction, okay.
The introduction to the King James Bible, and in there he was trying to bang on the Pope, man, because he was telling his son, like one of his sons, it converted to Catholicism and got beheaded. I think it was King Charles II. That was his grandson, actually, or was it his son, King Charles I? One of them did, right? And he was just telling them not to do it. But I think he wanted to marry a Catholic woman. He converted and ended up getting beheaded. But he didn't like the Pope. He referred to the Pope as the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And I think it's in there. I remember reading. I think it's in that introduction.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one. It was the last great book that I've read, and I've read it a couple times. It's called New Eyes by Steve Treu, Treu, and he talks about living in the spirit versus the ego mind, and that there's basically two beings inside you, and most people are ruled by the ego mind, and he teaches on how to live more in the spirit mind, and he explains it. He even goes into quantum physics with it, and it's a mind-blowing book, man. It's called New Eyes by Stephen Treu.
Okay.
That's one that I would recommend.
Stephen Treu.
Yeah, Treu.
Let me write that down.
Good stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to dig back in my old bag. So back in the day, I had a book that I read that was pretty powerful, that opened me up to like how a lot of these different religions came about. It's a book called Evolution and Origin of Religion by Albert Churchward.
Albert
That'd be
who?
interesting.
Albert Churchward.
Churchward.
Yeah, like
And
church.
then what was it called?
Last name.
Evolution of the what?
Evolution and Origin of Religion by Albert Churchward. And in there, he was just breaking down like all of the history of religion, right? But it was pretty interesting because back in the day when I first read it, it kind of went over my head, but I would read it like constantly, like every other year or whatever, till it made sense. And in there, he talked about the different cults. Like you mentioned these people worshiping on Saturday, right? So the Hebrews supposedly worshipped on the Sabbath, which is Sabido, like in Latin or Spanish. Sabido is the seventh day, right? So you have people who are Seventh-day Adventists because they say they worship on the seventh, all that, right? But if you look, you talked about Constantine and the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when they were establishing Christianity, and they changed this from Saturday to Sunday because he was more into sun worship.
Yes, Soli Victus. Yeah,
right. So
wow,
that's how most Christians to this day, they talk about leaving the Sabbath holy. It was Saturday, not Sunday. So
Angel, you told me that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But even I'm finding out because of the Dead Sea Scrolls that what we call the 7th day or Sabbath Shabbat is not the Shabbat that we've all been taught, because the Catholics and these Jews have they changed the calendars on both sides, the Gregorian calendar and the Hillel 2 calendar of the Hebrews. Both of them.
Yeah,
because if you affect this,
well, you don't know. You don't know what time it is for one, and you don't know where the hell you are in history. For example, I'm going back to this same book, right? So, Evolution, Origin, Religion. He talked about solar cults, lunar cults, and stellar cults, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, Ethiopian calendar to this day has 13 months, right?
Yeah.
And so a lunar calendar would have 13 months. It would be based upon the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be 28 days, 13 months, 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
How many days is that total?
I think it comes like 364 or something.
Well, if you follow the Hillel 2 calendar, which is what most Jewish people follow,
right?
You have, and they're following the sighting of the moon. And what happens is that the moon normally has a 28 and a half to a 29 day cycle. If you go through the 12 months, you're going to get 354 days. You're going to be off by 10 days off of the sun. And so what happens is every 3 years, they're going to have a leap month. And so you have a 13th month, because 10 plus 10 plus 10 is going to add up to 30. And that gives you the 13th month, according to the Jewish calendar. But now what you're going to find out in scripture, there is no 13th month. This has been, again, set up by these lunatics. This is where we get the word lunatics from. Okay. And so the lunatics are the ones who follow the moon. And so the moon cycle, and this is how the name actually came about, because they went away from the sun calendar, the solar calendar. But the solar calendar, unlike the way the Catholics has given it to us, because again, just like Russ was saying, right, they were solar worshipers. They worshiped the sun, Mithras and Soli Victus. This is what they believed in. Hence why Mother's Day, Father's Day is always on a Sunday.
Yeah, or even Jesus, the Son of God.
Right. Yeah,
it's 12 disciples or disciplines of nature.
Right. So, but again, all of this in Scripture shows that there is 12 sons of Israel, 12 disciples, 12 months,
12 on a roller.
Yeah, and so, and the Creator's big in the numbers. He's real big in the numbers, right? But the calendar, long story short, is that you have the Gregorian calendar that we're all following now, literally the whole world is following. I don't care if you're Muslim, Buddhist, it don't matter. To do commerce, you're going to be on the Roman time, because the Roman time is the one that's running the world right now. This is the empire. And so
and our government's, it's a Roman system that we're under.
100%.
Birth certificate, social security card. This is the same play they ran in Rome.
Isn't that crazy? Think about that. They tell us, and you even heard Trump say that, well, if you're going to be here in the United States, you need to learn how to speak English. Well, why don't we have English as the actual official language when we have Latin phrases on our money? We got Latin phrases on everything that has to do with species. We got Latin names for everything that has to do with medicine. We have Latin phrases for everything that has to do with court systems. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's funny, man.
Is Latin. Yeah. And it's a dead language at that. It's crazy. But the same thing with the calendar. The calendar is a dead calendar. The calendar is supposed to move with the sun, the moon, and the stars, because that is the Rolex in the sky.
Yeah, you just made me think of something, like even looking at the back of the dollar bill. Novus Order Seclorum.
Yeah, it's Latin.
New order of the ages, new world order.
Yep. But all of that is in our face, and we just never noticed it.
Well, it's hidden in plain sight, right? And just to touch on something else, because I didn't finish all of it. The moon is tied to Islam, the crescent, right?
That's another one.
Right. So and then you have the Star of David in the Hebrew, or say Jewish, that's stellar. And then you have the solar, which is Christianity. Yeah. And it goes back in time, showing the evolution of all of them. And
that sounds very interesting.
Yeah. And he had another book I had back in the day. I'm talking about, I had these books like 30 years ago. And the other one was called The Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man by Albert Churchward. Signs and Symbols. I read those back in the day, and it was like, okay. And it just led me down a whole bunch of different rabbit holes. And if you read a few books, and then the other one, 13th Tribe by Arthur Kessler, things like that. It's like, I've read so many books. That's when my eyes start getting bad, because I would be up nighttime with a little lamp and falling asleep, trying to read till my eyes went crazy. But all right, guys, is there anything you guys want to say to wrap up? We're definitely going to have to do part 2, 3, or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's just been fun.
Yeah,
we didn't touch. There's so many subjects we didn't even touch on, man.
Yeah,
at all. I mean, we got so many avenues.
It's all Angel's fault.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, and the thing is, the goal was not to try to offend anybody. The goal was really just to give different ways to look at things. And who's to say? We're not even saying that we're 100% right, even though everybody likes to believe that they're right. But it's like you defeat a weaker argument with a stronger argument. So if anybody has something that they want to say for or against, or you didn't like the way my glasses looked, or the way Scott's nose is shaped, or
hey man,
Angel's chin strap of a beard, it's like, just comment. And if you want to,
his skunk stripe.
Yeah. And if you want to join us on the panel next time, we'll bring you on and we could all chop it up, because it's like all we're trying to do is learn and become better human beings at the end of the day. And, I don't think anybody's going to have any problem with that. We don't mean anybody no harm. If anything, we just want to share love. Yep. Right, fellas?
That's right.
Exactly.
Hey, Russell.
Yes, sir.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, my man. Angel. Same too, bro. Love you all. And to all the listeners out there. All right. It sounds good. Shalom alaikum.
Yes, shalom alaikum.
Peace.
I appreciate it. This was real fun. I appreciate it.
It was, man. And the world needs love, man. What else can we say? All right, everybody, until the next episode. Matter of fact, I'm going to do another episode this weekend. It's going to be real good. I'm not sure if anybody out there is familiar with the Bruce Beach situation, where Bruce Beach, or AKA Manhattan Beach in California, was returned to the family.
Oh yeah, I read about that.
Bruce. So I'm gonna have on here.
That's your family?
A kind of distant, kind of, sort of. So the spokesperson for the family was Dwayne Shepard. I'm gonna have Mr. Dwayne Shepard here on the podcast. So if you look, you see the person that was speaking for the family. He's a family member of the Bruce clan, and I'm gonna have him on here. We're gonna talk about that. He's also a chief of an Indian tribe, so it's gonna be real good. We're gonna talk about, you know, the indigenous history of America and the tribes, as well as the and I was about to say what tribe he's from. I'm going blank real quick, but we're going to have that this weekend. So we got a lot of good episodes coming up. Everybody stay tuned. And until next time, peace.
Peace, fellas.
Peace.
Have a good night, guys.